So I'm reading the Sacred Tarot, y'all. A lot of my fam, and when I say fam, I mean supporters, okay? Like, a lot of them want me to do a tarot deck, which I don't see myself doing, to tell y'all the truth. I think I talked about that in the art and spirituality video, but I also want to learn more about tarot because I recently finished up all 5 of the Law of One books, which y'all, that was intense. Okay, it was intense going through all 5, but I did it. I made an intention actually not to write in any of them, because if I do like give them to somebody or gift them or like hand them down to my kids or something, I don't want to determine for them what areas are of more importance. So whenever I read books, like, I just do one pass, just reading it, not taking any notes, not writing anything, and then I go back and reread it, and then that's when I'm going to be taking notes and really dissecting some of the messages. And I finished up my Zodiac series, and I've been thinking, like, okay, so what's the next chapter? And I think that I really want to do the 22 major arcana as defined in the Law of One. But it's also been interesting learning about the Sacred Tarot from C.C. Zane, and this is one of the books from the Brotherhood of Light, and they talk about tarot from the Egyptian perspective as well, which is really based in the Law of One, and that information was given to the Egyptians thousands and thousands of years ago. And of course, tarot has been evolved and changed and has taken so many different shapes throughout time and throughout history. And so it's just been really interesting to see. It's like life is just like one big game of telephone. You know, like one person heard something, then you tell it to the next, you tell it to the next, and by the time you get to the 7th, 10th, 15th, 100th person, the story is completely different. And so that's why I like to go back to a lot of these ancient texts, to a lot of these historical figures that might not have had as much distortion in the information, you know, and the Law of One talks a lot about that. I'm still pretty new into the book. I kind of just started, so I'm on page 87. They're just breaking down the major arcana, so I'm on arcanum number 2. They call arcana 2 Veiled Isis. But of the 5 books of the Law of One, number 4 is the one where they talk about the tarot. And so number 2 in the Law of One is actually it's not the High Priestess, that's what it's traditionally called in tarot, but the Law of One is calling it the potentiator of the mind. But they all are displayed in the same way, where it's Veiled Isis. So with Veiled Isis representing numerically number 2, the second arcana, it expresses polarity. It suggests night and day, inhalation and exhalation, heat and cold. In fact, the most evident thing in existence is duality. Truth itself being dual, esoteric and exoteric, the truth of the real and the truth of appearances. And the Law of One talks so much about polarity, but at the end of the day, it's all still one. So like when you think about the symbol, yin yang symbol, it's that this light and dark, this hot and cold, this polarity, that's really what existence is. And I was just thinking, we think about the idea of not having a rule book for life, or not having like instructions, like we just arrived here, we just here, like nobody knows what we're doing or how we're even figuring out this game of life. But when you think about it, we actually do have quite a few just spiritual, metaphysical, scientific text though that's guiding us through the journey. And that's what really the Law of One has felt like. And as I'm just evolving on this journey, I'm really trying to figure out what the next phase looks like. But I've also gained a lot of clarity and comfort in knowing that I don't know, and that's beautiful too. And I'm just letting the game evolve. And I also feel like I'm shedding a layer. I'm shedding this layer that's just been built up for so many years and so many generations. Like when you think about ancestral trauma, like that stuff is real and is deeply rooted. And when we see ourselves going into these cycles or patterns, these loops of limiting beliefs or loops of self-destructive behavior, I think it warrants really analyzing, like, where does that come from? And one of my limiting behaviors or patterns is rooted in shame, which I think comes from some deep-rooted Christian upbringing, but we're not even gonna go there. But I'm releasing a lot of that, which feels really beautiful and expansive, and I'm out in the yard finding peace underneath the pear trees. So if you're hearing the birds, if you're hearing the planes, that's what's taking place in my surroundings. And just this past weekend, it was so beautiful and healing. We had family come in town, and when they left, we immediately went out to the trees in the woods and attended something called Refuge Outdoor Festival. It's an incredible festival, actually put on by one of our dear friends, Siobhan Powell. She's the founder of this festival, and Andy was teaching fire making workshops. It was absolutely amazing. Seeing everybody's face light up from creating fire, like one of our most ancestral, primitive techniques in how we would create warmth and food and community and light for the people around us. It was just a joy, seeing the joy that he was bringing to everybody else, and to also see the joy that he was having in sharing his passions with the people. There we go. There we go. That's a sweet spot. Awesome. It was also interesting seeing people struggle with the process. Really, it came down from poor technique, and so they were trying, and it wasn't working for them to strike, to actually start a spark. You can see them getting frustrated, you can see them getting tired, and you can see them not being able to sustain this technique for a long time because they were just like burning energy, like it wasn't actually doing it. And it just makes me think about life in general. And I think about the saying, work smarter, not harder. And I really like to pull back layers in my life to figure out what areas am I not being as efficient or effective, even in my spiritual process, in my literally emotionally, physically, financially, relationally. Like, what areas of my life am I really just burning energy and not implementing the proper technique to actually get to a place that I want to get to? And whenever I read different metaphysical or spiritual books, it's such an unlocker to that next level of expansion. And when you see yourself like hitting these same roadblocks, it's like, okay, how long are we gonna keep running into the same wall where we causing ourselves pain and harm, and like you literally bleeding from you literally running into the same wall? And so taking a moment to step back and to meditate and have this silence, and also read some of the books that helped our ancestors in their journey. Maybe there's a way we can do it with more congruence with the laws of nature. What was so profound during the festival, there was a woman there, Nakala, I think it was Nakala, and she was a joy activation coach, which I thought was so beautiful. So during the market at Refuge Outdoor Festival, she was doing 15-minute joy consultations, and she was asking me what brings me joy. And of course there's so many different things that bring me joy, but what's been really bringing me the most joy lately is rest. But beyond rest, it's unapologetic rest, shame-free rest, guilt-free rest, where I'm not resting from just pure burnout, but the whole time I'm thinking like, oh, how I should actually be getting up and doing something productive right now. I should be doing something else. I shouldn't be resting. It's like, no, even looking at nature as our teacher and our guide, and as the model of being like, nature is resting during winter and it's going to restore itself back in spring. In the same way that these plants need time to rest so that they can sprout their flowers and they can shine their biggest, brightest light, is the same way that we need to do it as well. And it was really interesting to pull back the layers of the guilt that I feel around rest. And it just, when you think about some of our upbringing, I know for me with my mom, it was like, if y'all ain't cleaning up around this house, you wasting time, okay? If your ass is sitting on this couch, get on up, because there's some work that needs to be done around this house. And so whenever I feel like I'm just sitting around not doing something, I just have this inner voice of like, get that ass up, But as I've been growing and evolving and shedding this layer of shame, it just feels so expansive, and it makes me feel so worthy and so seen and so deserving of rest. Like, rest isn't a reward, you know? So it's like, even if you don't deserve rest, like, you still need it. It's a law, you know? And I think this has been the interesting layer about the law of one, and just all the different, I mean, when you think about the 7 Hermetic principles, there's just like, our world is bound by so many different universal laws, and when we flow with those, we just have more ease in life. And so if like you're trying to go upstream, that's going to be a whole lot more difficult than going downstream. I love Abraham Hicks, and I love listening to all the different manifestation and law of attraction and all the messages that Jerry and Esther have to share about channeling Abraham Hicks. And they talk a lot about getting into the vortex of creation and not trying to go upstream, going downstream, channeling that downstream energy and get into a vortex of creation where you realizing that you do have all the powers of the divine. And that was actually one of the questions that Nakala had brought up during our talk was, if you had all the powers of the divine, what would you do? And when I think about what I would do this. I would share my art. I would shine my light. I would let other people know that we honestly, I feel like if I truly understood that I have the power of the divine, I would share the news with other people that you have the power of the divine. You know, I feel like I'm just a sharer in general. I'm a communicator, and I'm somebody like, if I find something good, I gotta let the streets know. That's just who I am. Oh my God, I just laid on my back and looked up, and there's this beautiful bird. Let me see, can y'all see it? Oh, she's right there. Hey, beautiful. Hey, I'm literally just in the grass, laying on my back, finding peace in the pear tree, and that was the beauty that greeted me. Back to what I was saying, I feel like part of my mission is to share the good news, is to share the gospel, okay? That we do have all the power of the divine. And in the process of giving myself permission to shine in my fullest light, it also gives other people. As an empath and as a spiritually conscious creator on this planet, sometimes we can feel like, oh, we have to protest or advocate or march in the streets or do all these different things. And I found that actually when I just show up as the highest version of myself, that's when I truly feel like I'm doing my greatest work. That's when I truly feel like I'm in alignment with the path that has brought me here, you know? I believe that a lot of us struggle because we are battling so many different narratives in our mind, so many different things that we think that we're supposed to do, or that somebody has told us how we're supposed to live our life. And what was so inspiring about the law of one is that how they were saying everything is a reflection of the creator, the good and the bad, the highs and the lows. It's all a part of this existence of the creator experiencing itself. And I rarely even use the word creator when I talk about the divine. The word that resonates the most with me is the word source, and the other word that they used in the law of one was infinite intelligence, which I really love. It feels like this, just an energy, you know. I don't really resonate with the idea of a human form like male entity being in the sky determining, having judgment upon us and making changes for us and doing all these different things. I resonate with an idea of an infinite intelligence, a source energy that has no clear beginning or ending or edges or definition that can really give it form. And we are the manifestations that is given this infinite intelligence form and shape. And the goal of it is to proliferate in so many different ways and facets, and each expression of this source is intentionally unique and individualized to express itself and to have its own experience on this physical plane. And there's messages guiding us through every aspect of it. There's guides with us, there's ancestors with us, there's energies that's with us, and there's universal laws that can help us get into a flow more easily and more efficiently, where we feel like we're actually doing it right. But there is no right, there is no wrong. It's just the isness, and shedding this idea that you have to be this type of person in order to be good, or you have to be this type of person in order to, enter the quote unquote kingdom of heaven. Like the kingdom of heaven dwells within you. That's actually in the Bible. That's one of my favorite scriptures. The kingdom of heaven is within you, and it's within the mind of the person that understands that we are source, that we are a part of source, and the powers that be thrive on separating us. Like that's just as real as it comes. And all these ideas of shame and guilt and oppression and discrimination and racism, it proliferates, it breeds this false identity of separateness. And what's so beautiful about the law of one is that I am you, you are me. We're all connected on this infinite wave. And so however I treat somebody else is how I'm treating myself. And it's all just a circle. It's all connected in this infinite cosmic collective consciousness of energy, But just knowing, just reading these books have just freed my mind in so many ways. Sometimes we just think what is the right way? How am I doing it right? Am I good? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? And when you come from a Judeo-Christian upbringing, there's so much structure around what's good, what's bad, what's a sin, what's holy. It's all these different buckets, right? Well, really, it's not a lot. Okay, it's kind of just two buckets: what's a sin and what's holy. And the more you can do in the holy bucket, the more that you are going to be able to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Enter into the pearly gates with the angels, and where the streets are paved with gold. And that never really resonated with me. It always felt like, man, okay, but then what am I doing here if I'm just waiting for death? If I'm just waiting to have this pearly gate experience when I die, so it's literally, so just this experience is just to rack up how many golden stars I can have on my board of how many good deeds I've done in order to enter into this gate. And what was really profound about the other book that I just started, The Sacred Tarot, let me read this because this was really interesting. This was actually a direct quote that he got from the Egyptian initiative. Every will which unites itself to deity in order to manifest truth and work justice, enters even in this life into a participation of divine power over beings and things. The way it's written in the book, it actually breaks down each major arcana, and there's a number by each word that represents that arcana, which really provided a lot of structure from what was talked about in the archetypes of the Law of One. So I feel like the Sacred Tarot book is a perfect companion for me just finishing the Law of One books. But what was really significant when they talk about one who is able to actually pursue divine will can have this divine power over beings and things even in this lifetime, and that's the part where it's okay, we already have access to this divine power, this infinite intelligence, this abundance of creativity and passion and beauty and love and wisdom. All these things are already within us, but it's just having an understanding of it and tapping into that even in this lifetime. So it doesn't have to be upon death. What's been beautiful in reading these books is having an understanding that all of it's holy. All of it is holy because all of it is whole. All of it is one. It's all part of the Creator, the good and the bad, this duality, the polarity, the hot and the cold, the light and the dark. It's all a part of it, We don't have to run from anything. We don't have to embrace another, and we experience life through the contrast. Whenever I'm painting any subject matter, that entity looks the most beautiful. The more contrast that I add, the darker the shadows, the lighter the highlights. That's really when the piece is able to come alive and the message is really able to shine. And something that I thought was really interesting about the Law of One, how they talked about the power of sexual energy, which has been demonized for so long throughout so many different spiritual and religious practices, not even just the church, but so many different things talk about abstinence and abstaining from sex, and how sex can be bad, sex can be evil, or is super duper duper holy and you should only enter into it with certain sacred people. But it was really interesting how to restore Carla's energy was through rest and sex. I was just like, this is amazing. Why don't we talk about this, and just the power that sexual energy has. It's interesting too, because they're talking about that in the sacred tarot as well. And of course, people who understand tantra are probably like, girl, yes, clearly, obviously, and so that's definitely the next spiritual text that I want to dive into. I feel like I think I talked about this, or maybe I posted about it on my Instagram, how really one of my goals in life is I just want to read metaphysical, spiritual books and translate it into beautiful paintings or into visual diaries, and just pontificate all day, share my thoughts, share my musings, share what I'm reading, and seeing if it's something that resonates with you as well. So I just want to leave you with the light and the love, and just know that everything you're doing is just fine. It's all in divine time. There's no good, there's no bad. Just thinking makes it so. Everything is how we perceive it and how we define it, but there's also duality in everything. So everything has polarity, but nothing is wrong about it. There's nothing even wrong about something being bad. It's just, there's just so many different layers. I could talk about it forever, but just kind of planting the seed about some of the ideas that's to come, some of the visual diaries that's to come on this channel, some of the paintings and imagery that I want to create and put out into the world, and some of the ideas that I want to share to really let you know that you do have all the power of the divine. So if we have that understanding, then what would our existence look like? Is it play? Is it productivity? Is it passion? Is it people? Is it politics? I'm here for the peace. Okay. Your girl's being a poet today. Maybe that's because this entire visual diary has been about me finding peace underneath the pear tree. And it's been magical sharing this moment with you. I'm sending you all the love and the light, and I hope that you tap into the divinity that is within you. I'll leave you with a quote from the humble messenger Ra from the Law of One. It's just 3 words. Nothing is lost.